Let's look at the first area of the framework, which is talking about the information requirements. Okay, so as discussed earlier, in terms of information requirements, it all starts from the very high level. We call it the organizational information requirements, and then it goes down to the next lower level, asset information requirements, and then after that it filters down to the employer information requirements, which then gets taken by the consultant or the contractor to become part of the BIM execution plan. Okay, so let's talk about these three areas. Okay, the information requirements. Okay, so starting with the organizational information requirement, or we call it the OIR. Okay, OIR. So it is to define information requirement at a strategic level. Also meaning that at a company level, it's not really at the individual project level. It's at the company level, or to have access and to track key property changes. Or for example, the lease. Okay, for example, the return on investment for that particular asset. All right, and that then gets filtered down, okay, to the next lower level. We call it the asset information requirements, or in short we call it the AIR. So that requires the company owners, okay, to define the information requirement at operational level. For example, to identify space information requirement, okay, the space ID, the volume, the area finishes. For example, coming back to the shopping mall example, it could be the company needs to know, okay, for the shopping mall at the Orchard Road, okay, how much of the space is used for, let's say, grocery, how much of the space is used for high-end luxury items, so on and so forth. Okay, so that is at this operational level. Or it could be more mundane things like the air conditioning system. Okay, how much energy it is consuming. Okay, when is the next due upgrading for the air conditioning system. All right, now all these things, at the strategic level and at the operation level, it will get filtered down, okay, to the information or the employer information requirement. We call it the EIR at a project level, meaning that when the company want to start a new project, let's say to build a new shopping center, the company need to take into the account the decisions made at the strategic level and the decision that is made at the operational level, okay, or to put it into the requirements, okay, for the new project. So that actually then define the client's project and BIM objectives or goals. Okay, so the EIR basically is to specify the client's BIM requirement. Okay, it could be the project information exchange into the employer's this asset management environment. Okay, or just very simply, the owner wants to make sure that the new shopping center, okay, the aircon efficiency is at a certain level. Okay, all right, to meet say for example the green plan that the company is trying to roll out. Okay, we'll be going into detail, okay, the OIR and the AIR and the EIR in the next few slides, starting with the OIR. The OIR describes the information required by an organization for asset management and operation and other organizational functions at a high level or a strategic level. Yeah. Ideally, before the building or facility owner requests for asset information delivery from their project team, it is necessary to understand who needs the information and why the information is needed, to avoid it becoming a case of information for information's sake. The reason is because it takes effort in order to capture the information, and it takes more resources and effort to capture the information accurately. Okay, So given the inherent cost for every information capture, the reasons for asking each information should be well understood, okay, on how it adds value to the organization. If not, then end up what will happen is that the organizations spend a lot of unnecessary resources trying to capture all this information. Okay, so there is a typical process, okay, when we are going through this OIR, and you can see here the diagram try to encapsulate the process lah, or it's divided into 4 stages in the form of a continuous cycle, starting with the first stage where there is identification of the sources, okay, and the need to collect the data. Then after that, it goes to the next stage where there is identification of the types of the owner requirements. Then after that, the identification of the required information. And then after that, relate the project's digital and physical products with the requirements. Okay, so that is the 4-stage process. Here are some examples of OIRs that set out the context and the intended use of the information that is going to be received and processed within the company. Yeah. So for example, to have access to all property assets data in one common data environment, or to understand, okay, the trend analysis and benchmark, okay, across the different projects or different building, or maybe the information is required, okay, to ensure that the company can comply with this government, okay, or legal requirement, or maybe the information is needed, okay, to have access and to track on important property changes. Let's say the particular building, okay, is coming to the end of the defects liability period. Okay, so there will be implications, right? Yeah, or the particular property, okay, is going to end its lease in the next 20 years or the next 5 years, right? Or another reason for trying to get the information is to maintain and to retain the asset information for future procurement events. That means you want to refurbish the particular shopping mall, for example. So you need to know what is the lease, for example. Yeah, or to have access on metering utility data to identify the energy performance of the different buildings under the care of the company, or to determine the cost of specific activities, or to determine the whole life cycle cost of asset. These are some of the reasons why we want to have this information, the organizational information. Okay, is for strategic level planning and decision making. Once the business needs are understood, more detailed asset information requirements can be defined. So you then go down, okay, to the asset information requirements, or the AIRs. Okay, right? So based on a list of asset types that matter to the company, the initial requester of the information should be able to identify the specific asset information required to achieve the objective defined in the initial strategic level. Okay, or you can, for example, look into defining what is your asset, so that for every asset that you have defined, what is the corresponding data that you are looking at, and you can then define what is the unit of measurement, and then you define the delivery stage, who is the responsible party, okay, or then organizational information alignment, and then after that you define the change management process. Okay, yeah. Typically, the asset information will include the following. It could be physical asset data, for example, name, description, technical characteristic of the asset. It could be location or spatial data. Where is the asset? Okay, how it relates to the other asset. Could be performance data, how this asset contribute to the serviceability target, or it could be the condition data. What is the life expectancy of the asset? For operation and maintenance purposes, The key assets are usually those associated with space and building services system. The following list here shows you some examples of the asset system that can be captured as deliverables. Could be architectural system, conveyance system, safety security system, information technology system, mechanical ventilation system, building automation, monitoring space control system, air conditioning, refrigeration function, plumbing, sanitary system, building envelope system, gas and electrical systems. By now, you start to appreciate that for a typical building, there are many different types of assets that you can be looking at. So to assist the facility or the building owner in identifying which asset among so many are important for operational and maintenance, you can use certain criteria. So these are some of the criteria that you can actually use for you to prioritize which asset is more important than the rest. Okay, you can look into the asset components with the high frequency use, and wear and tear that require regular or unpredicted period of monitoring, maintenance or replacement. You can look at the asset components that are linked directly to basic and common services of the building, for example, ventilation, aircon and drainage system. Or you can look into asset components that require specific information such as health or safety, operation, environment and procedure. Now we go into the EIR, which is talking about if the company decide to build a new building or facility, or even if the company decide to refurbish an existing facility, say refurbish an existing shopping mall, he will have certain requirements that he wants the consultants or contractor to be able to achieve. So we call that EIR. Alright. So this EIR is the document that defines the client's project and BIM objectives. Okay. The EIR generally outlines the information to be delivered together with any associated standard and processes to be adopted by the project delivery teams, that means the consultants and the contractor. It will also establish the scope for the engaged project team to create the data in a structured manner. So the detailed approach to be taken, including defining the roles and responsibilities of the key stakeholders in the project delivery chain that need to create the asset data, should be spelled out properly in the BIM execution plan next. So the following could be an example of the things that we put into EIR. It could be in terms of management and technical requirement. So for example, management requirement, it could be requiring a certain applicable standard or guides. For example, the Singapore BIM Guide, or to require collaborative working, to define how, where, when the information will be shared, or to look into the model authoring, set out the requirements for the management of the modeling process, look into the coordination and the detection of the crashes, crash detection, not crash detection, alright, or to have a compliance plan, or in the technical area, you'll be looking into the information exchange format and these software application which I've talked about previously, or even the coordinates for the different models, because the different stakeholders they could be building different versions of the required model for them to do their work. So the coordinate must be so-called the same set of coordinates. If not, then the models will not be able to work with each other. So this could be some of the requirements that is put down in the employer's information report.